The massive doors of the Galactic Council building opened with a deep rumble that shook the floor. Ambassador Kang Hyo walked through them with steady steps, his dark blue uniform clean and pressed. Behind him walked 3 other humans from Earth. They were the newest members of the galactic community, and today they would learn what that really meant. The council chamber was huge. The ceiling stretched so high that Kang Hyo could barely see the top. Around the circular room sat representatives from 47 different worlds. Some looked almost human. Others were so strange that Kang Hyo had to work hard not to stare. Indy. The center of the room stood something that made every other alien look friendly by comparison. The Vorthak delegation towered over everyone else. Their leader was nearly 3 meters tall with gray skin that looked like old metal. 4 arms extended from its broad shoulders, and 6 eyes arranged in perfect rows across its face tracked every movement in the room. Humans of Earth. The creature spoke in a voice like grinding stone. I am War Prime Zalveth of the Vorthak Empire. We bring you greetings and an offer. Kang Hyo stepped forward. He had practiced this moment for months, but his mouth still felt dry. We are honored to meet you, War Prime. I am Ambassador Kang Hyo, speaking for all of Earth. The War Prime's 6 eyes focused on him with uncomfortable intensity. Your honor is noted. However, we are not here for pleasant conversation. We are here to offer you a choice that we have offered to 983 worlds before yours. A chill ran down Kang Hyo's spine. He knew that number. Every species in the galaxy knew that number. It was the count of worlds the Vorthak Empire had conquered without a single defeat. What choice is that? Kang Hyo asked, though he already suspected the answer. Join our empire willingly, and your people will be treated well. They will have food, shelter, and purpose serving. Our great civilization, refuse, and we will take your world by force. The result will be the same, but many of your people will die needlessly. The chamber fell completely silent. Even the soft humming of the translation devices seemed to stop. Every alien representative stared at the humans, waiting to see how they would respond. Kang Hyo looked around the room. These creatures from dozens of worlds, with all their advanced technology and ancient wisdom, sat in silence because they knew there was nothing they could do. The Vorthak had never lost a war. They had never even lost a major battle. How long do we have to decide? Kang Hyo asked. 72 of your Earth hours. War Prime Zalveth replied. Our fleet is already moving toward your system. When the time expires, we will assume you have chosen resistance. Back on Earth, in a deep bunker beneath the city of Seoul, Commander Lee Bora received the message from the Galactic Council. She read it 3 times before setting it down on her desk. Around her, the command center of Earth's Stellar Defense Force buzzed with quiet activity. Ma'am, called out Lieutenant Kim Tae-ho from his communication station. We're getting reports from our deep space sensors. A large fleet just entered our outer system. Lee Bora walked over to the main display screen. The image showed the edge of their solar system, where hundreds of red dots were moving inward with perfect formation. Each dot represented a Vorthak warship, and there were far more of them than Earth had ships to oppose. How many? She asked. Initial count shows over 1,000 heavy cruisers and 10,000 smaller vessels, replied Tae-ho. Their energy signatures are off the charts. Ma'am, our weapons might not even scratch their shields. Lee Bora nodded slowly. She had expected this ever since Earth joined the galactic community 5 years ago. The Vorthak eventually came for everyone. What surprised her was how calm she felt. Send a message to all defense stations, she ordered. Begin Operation Deep Water immediately. Ma'am? Tae-ho looked confused. Operation Deep Water isn't a combat plan. It's an evacuation protocol. No, Lieutenant, Operation Deep Water is much more than that. You'll understand soon enough. In another part of Seoul, in a laboratory buried even deeper than the military command center, Park Min-ho stared at streams of data flowing across multiple screens. As Earth's chief science officer, he had spent the last 5 years preparing for this moment. The readings are incredible, he said to his assistant, Dr. Han Suman. Look at these energy patterns. The Vorthak ships are maintaining antimatter reactions that should be impossible to control over such distances. How are they doing it? Han Suman asked, leaning over his shoulder to study the data. That's what worries me. Our computers recognize the mathematical patterns they're using. It's like they're following equations that our own scientists developed, but perfected them centuries ago. Park Min-ho pulled up another screen showing the Vorthak fleet formation. The ships moved in precise geometric patterns that reminded him of something he had seen before. Suman, pull up the formation analysis from the Kepler Defense Academy War games. The ones from 3 years ago. Han Suman's fingers flew over her keyboard. A new image appeared showing human ships arranged in training formations. The patterns were remarkably similar to what the Vorthak were using. My God, Han Suman whispered. They're using tactics based on our own military theory. But how could they know about classified training exercises? They've been watching us, Park Min-ho replied grimly. The question is, what else do they know about us? President Kim Soo-jin stood at the podium in the United Earth Assembly building. Before her sat representatives from every nation on Earth. The chamber was packed, with people standing in the aisles and more watching on screens around the world. Citizens of Earth, she began, her voice steady and clear. 71 hours ago we received an ultimatum from the Vorthak Empire. They demand our surrender, or they will take our world by force. Worried murmurs filled the chamber. President. Kim raised her hand for silence. I want you to know that we will not surrender, not because we are foolish or proud, but because we are human. For thousands of years our species has faced impossible odds and found ways to survive. We have turned disadvantages into advantages. We have made weapons from our weaknesses. She paused, looking out over the faces of humanity's leaders. The Vorthak have conquered 983 worlds. They have never lost because they have never faced an enemy like us. They expect us to fight like every other species they have defeated. They expect us to meet their strength with our strength, their technology with our technology. President Kim smiled, and there was something dangerous in that smile. But humans don't fight fair. We fight smart. We turn every battle into a puzzle to be solved, not a contest to be won through force alone. The Vorthak think they know everything about warfare. They are about to learn that they know nothing about fighting humans. The chamber erupted in applause, but President Kim wasn't finished. In 68 hours, the Vorthak fleet will reach Earth. When they arrive, they will find that everything they think they know about us is wrong. They will discover that our greatest strength has never been our weapons or our ships. Our greatest strength is our ability to adapt, to change, to become whatever we need to become to survive. As the applause died down, President Kim delivered her final words with quiet intensity. The Vorthak have a perfect war record. In 68 hours, that record ends. In the depths of space, War Prime Zalveth reviewed the tactical displays aboard. His flagship. The human defense fleet was pathetically small compared to his armada. Their technology seemed primitive, barely beyond the level of chemical rockets and kinetic weapons. Yet something nagged at him. In 983 previous conquests, the enemy had always responded predictably. They gathered there, fleets made desperate speeches and prepared for hopeless last stands. The humans were doing something different. Their ships were spreading out through their system in patterns that made no tactical sense. Some were hiding behind asteroids. Others were moving toward the outer planets, away from Earth itself. War Prime, called his tactical officer. The human fleet appears to be scattering. Should we pursue the individual groups? Zalveth studied the displays more carefully. The human ships were moving, but not randomly. There was a pattern to their movements, something almost like a dance. No, he decided. We follow standard doctrine. Advance toward their homeworld and force them to defend it. When they gather their ships to protect Earth, we destroy them all in one decisive battle. But as his fleet moved deeper into the solar system, Zalveth couldn't shake the feeling that the humans wanted him to think exactly that. The Vorthak fleet emerged from hyperspace like a deadly storm. 1,000 heavy cruisers appeared first, their dark metal hulls gleaming under the light of Earth's sun. Behind them came wave after wave of smaller ships, until the edge of the solar system was filled with alien warships stretching in perfect formations as far as sensors could detect. War Prime Zalveth stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Eternal Victory. Through the massive viewing screen, he could see the small blue world that would soon join his empire. The tactical displays showed Earth's pathetic defense fleet scattered throughout the system like frightened animals. War Prime, his communications officer reported. We are receiving multiple transmissions from the human homeworld. They appear to be broadcast to their own population. Let me hear them, Zalveth ordered. The bridge speakers crackled with human voices speaking in dozens of different languages. Some sounded afraid, others were angry. But many had a quality that Zalveth had rarely encountered in his previous conquests. They sounded determined. Curious, he mused. Most species spend their final hours in despair or desperate prayer. These humans seem to be making preparations. Admiral Choi Wonho stood on the bridge of the UES Indomitable, humanity's largest warship. Around him, his officers worked at their stations with calm efficiency. The main screen showed the approaching Vorthak fleet, but none of the humans seemed panicked by the overwhelming enemy numbers. Admiral, reported his sensor officer, Lieutenant Park Jinwoo, the Vorthak are maintaining standard formation 7 Alpha. Distance between ships is exactly 2.7 kilometers. Speed is holding steady at 0.3 light speed, just like the simulations predicted. Admiral Choi replied with satisfaction. Signal all ships. Begin Phase 1 of Operation Deepwater. Throughout the solar system, human ships began moving in patterns that seemed random to Vorthak observers. Some vessels accelerated toward the asteroid belt. Others changed course toward Jupiter's moons. A few appeared to be running away toward the outer planets. Lieutenant Commander Nam Ji-hye monitored the communications array aboard the Indomitable. Her screens showed hundreds of encrypted signals passing between human ships, but she knew the Vorthak would be listening to everything. All ships reporting ready, Admiral, she announced. The Vorthak are intercepting our communications just as expected. Perfect, Admiral Choi smiled. Make sure they can break our encryption in exactly 15 minutes. We want them to think they're very clever. War Prime Zalveth received the decoded human transmissions with growing confidence. The messages revealed panic among human commanders, arguments about where to make their final stand, and desperate plans to evacuate their most important leaders. Typical, he told his tactical officer. They follow the same pattern as every other species. Fear leads to poor decisions. Poor decisions lead to defeat. His fleet pressed deeper into the solar system, past the orbit of Mars. The few human ships that tried to intercept them were easily driven off by long-range energy weapons. Zalveth noted with professional interest that human shields were indeed primitive, barely capable of stopping basic particle beams. War Prime, his science officer called out. We are detecting some unusual readings from the asteroids and outer moons. Small energy signatures, possibly human technology. Mining equipment or scientific stations, Zalveth dismissed. Humans are known to scatter such installations throughout their systems. Ignore them unless they show hostile intent. But the human equipment scattered through the solar system was far from innocent. Captain Lee Hyunwoo drifted silently near one of Jupiter's smaller moons aboard the stealth ship Invisible Wind. His vessel was so small that Vorthak sensors registered it as space debris, if they detected it at all. Target identified, he whispered, to his crew. Vorthak heavy cruiser, approximately 5,000 meters long. Beginning approach. The Invisible Wind used tiny maneuvering thrusters to drift closer to the alien warship. Lee Hyunwoo had practiced this maneuver hundreds of times, in simulations, but doing it with a real enemy ship was entirely different. Distance, 100 meters and closing, reported his navigator, Corporal Kim Soyeon. No indication they've detected us. 50 meters. Deployment system is ready. 20 meters. I can see their hull plating. Deploy the package, Lee Hyun-woo ordered. A small device no bigger than a briefcase detached from the Invisible Wind and used magnetic clamps to attach itself to the Vorthak ship's hull. To enemy sensors, it would look like a piece of space debris that had accidentally stuck to their ship. Throughout the solar system, dozens of similar operations were taking place. Human stealth ships approached Vorthak vessels and left behind small packages before drifting away undetected. Dr. Song Mi-hee watched the operation from Earth's command center. Her screen showed the positions of every human ship and every deployed sensor package. Each small device was now attached to a different Vorthak vessel, waiting for the signal to activate. "How many packages have been successfully deployed?" asked Commander Lee Bora. 87 so far, Dr. Song replied. "The stealth teams are exceeding expectations. The Vorthak sensors are designed to detect large energy sources and weapons. They're completely blind to our small craft. And Phase 2? Ready to begin on your order, Commander." The battle near Jupiter began exactly as War Prime Zalveth expected. A group of human ships had taken defensive positions around the planet's largest moons, apparently hoping to use the gravitational fields as protection. It was a common tactic among primitive species, and it never worked. "Begin the assault," Zalveth ordered. "Standard formation. Destroy the human ships and continue toward their homeworld." Vorthak heavy cruisers opened fire with their primary energy weapons. Brilliant beams of concentrated particles lanced across space, striking human ships and overloading their shields. Several human vessels exploded immediately, their debris scattering across the battlefield. But the surviving human ships did something unexpected. Instead of trying to fight back or retreat, they began moving in seemingly random patterns. Some accelerated directly toward Vorthak ships as if attempting ramming attacks. Others spun wildly as if their controls had been damaged. Commander Yoon Dae-ho piloted the frigate Sejong in what appeared to be a desperate suicide run against a Vorthak heavy cruiser. His ship's engines roared at maximum power as he aimed directly at the alien vessel's bridge section. "Sir," his weapons officer called out, "we're not going to penetrate their shields. This is suicide." "Trust the plan," Yoon Dae-ho replied calmly. "Wait for it. Wait for it. Now." At the last possible second, the Sejong's engines cut out completely. The ship's momentum carried it forward, but now it was tumbling helplessly. It passed through the Vorthak cruiser's shields like a piece of debris, spinning past the alien ship's hull before drifting away into space. The Vorthak crew barely noticed the human ship's passage. Their sensors showed it as a disabled vessel, no longer a threat. They didn't detect the small device that had separated from the Sejong during its tumbling passage, a device that was now attached to their ship's communication array. Across the battlefield, similar scenes played out. Human ships made what appeared to be suicidal attacks, only to have their engines fail at the last moment. Some seemed to collide with Vorthak vessels, but caused no damage. Others appeared to be destroyed, but left behind debris that drifted against enemy hulls. War Prime Zalveth watched the chaotic battle with growing irritation. The humans were fighting like amateurs, making desperate moves that accomplished nothing. Their ships were being destroyed or disabled, but they seemed determined to waste their lives in meaningless gestures. "Continue the advance," he ordered. "Leave the disabled human ships. They are no longer a threat." But in the depths of space, the disabled human ships were very much still active. Their crews worked frantically at hidden control stations, monitoring the sensor packages that had been successfully placed on Vorthak vessels. Lieutenant Colonel Bae Ji-ho sat in the cramped cockpit of his supposedly destroyed fighter. His ship drifted among genuine debris, its engines cold and its weapons offline. But his sensors were very much active, and they were recording everything about the Vorthak cruiser just 50 meters away. "Package is active and transmitting," he whispered into his hidden communicator. "I'm getting detailed scans of their shield frequency, weapon signatures, and communication protocols." Similar reports came from dozens of human ships scattered across the battlefield. Each sensor package was gathering intelligence about Vorthak technology, learning the secrets that had made their empire unstoppable for centuries. Dr. Song Mi-hee watched the data streaming into Earth's computers. The information was incredible. Vorthak shields operated on rotating frequency patterns. Their weapons used predictable firing cycles. Most importantly, their ships communicated using quantum encryption that followed mathematical principles human computers could analyze. "Commander Lee," she called out excitedly, "we're getting everything. Shield frequencies, weapon patterns, communication codes. The Vorthak think we're beaten, so they're not being careful about security protocols." Commander Lee Bora smiled as she watched the tactical display. The Vorthak fleet was continuing its advance toward Earth, confident that the human defense had been broken. They had no idea that their own ships were now carrying. War Prime Zelveth stared at the human commander on his screen with growing confusion. Her calm smile made no sense. His fleet had just destroyed or disabled dozens of human ships. Earth's defenses were scattered and broken. Yet this female spoke, as if she had won some great victory. "You are delusional," Zelveth told her. "Your ships are destroyed. Your weapons cannot penetrate our shields. Surrender now and save your remaining people." Commander Libora's smile grew wider. "Our weapons don't need to penetrate your shields, War Prime. We're already inside them." The communication cut off, leaving Zelveth staring at a blank screen. Around him, his bridge crew looked confused. Inside their shields? What could she mean? The first sign of trouble came from the heavy cruiser Blade of Conquest. The massive ship had been advancing toward Earth when its engines suddenly shut down. The crew worked frantically at their controls, but nothing responded. Weapons, shields, navigation, even life support systems began switching to emergency power. War Prime, the panicked voice of Ship Commander Velkoth, crackled over the communication system. "All our systems are failing. We have no control over our own ship." Before Zelveth could respond, similar reports began flooding in from across his fleet. Ship after ship reported total systems failure, not damage from enemy weapons, but complete loss of control over their own technology. In the depths of space, Lieutenant Colonel Bei Jiho smiled as he watched the Vorthak cruiser near his position go dark. His hidden sensors were now connected directly to the alien ship's computer network, and human technicians on Earth were taking control of every system. "Target secured," he whispered into his communicator. "The Vorthak crew is locked out of their own controls. We now own this ship." Dr. Song Mihi coordinated the cyber attack from Earth's command center. Her screen showed dozens of Vorthak ships as they fell under human control. The sensor packages that had seemed like desperate suicide attacks were actually the most sophisticated computer viruses ever created. "How is this possible?" asked Commander Libora. "Simple," Dr. Song replied. "The Vorthak have been using the same computer systems for centuries. They never had to worry about enemy hackers because no one could get close enough to their ships. But we got close enough." She pulled up a schematic of Vorthak computer networks. "Their systems are incredibly advanced, but they're all connected. Once we got access to one ship's computers, we could spread through their entire fleet. They designed their network for efficiency, not security." War Prime Zelveth watched his perfect fleet falling apart around him. Ship after ship went silent, or began moving in impossible patterns. Some vessels started spinning slowly, as if their crews had lost all control. Others began forming new formations that spelled out mathematical equations in the darkness of space. "How are they doing this?" he demanded of his science officer. "Unknown, War Prime. Our sensors detect no enemy weapons fire, no energy beams, no missiles, no physical attacks of any kind. Our ships are simply losing control of their own systems." The answer came from an unexpected source. Captain Ryu Jiwan, commander of the EID human ship Soul, opened a direct communication channel to the Vorthak flagship. "War Prime Zelveth," she said pleasantly. "I thought you might want to understand what's happening to your fleet." Zelveth's 6 eyes fixed on the human female with burning intensity. "Explain." "Your ships are very impressive," Captain Ryu said. "But they have one weakness. You trust your computers completely. You never considered that someone might turn your own technology against you." She gestured to something off-screen. "Every sensor package we attach to your ships contains a quantum computer virus. It learned your systems, copied your codes, and then spread through your entire network. We now control your ships better than you do." "Impossible. Our encryption cannot be broken." "You're right. We didn't break it. We copied it. Your ships told us all your codes when we hacked into their communication systems. Now watch what human engineering can do with Vorthak technology." The captured Vorthak ships began moving in perfect synchronization. They formed geometric patterns that no military force had ever attempted, their movements so precise they seemed like a single organism, rather than hundreds of individual vessels. But the humans weren't finished demonstrating their new capabilities. Dr. Kim Soo-hyun led teams of engineers as they began upgrading the captured Vorthak ships in real time. Working through the hijacked computer systems, they improved engine efficiency, enhanced weapon power, and strengthened shield generators. "This is incredible," Dr. Kim reported to Earth Command. "Vorthak technology is centuries ahead of ours, but their engineers were too conservative. They never pushed their systems to full potential. We're increasing their ship's performance by 30% just by removing artificial limitations." Warprime Zalveth received detailed reports as his own ships became more powerful than they had ever been under Vorthak control. The humans weren't just stealing his fleet, they were improving it. "Warprime," his tactical officer said in a shaking voice. "The human-controlled ships are now superior to our remaining vessels. If they choose to attack us, we cannot win." The situation became even worse when the humans began broadcasting their improvements throughout the Vorthak fleet. Ships, still under Vorthak control, received detailed technical data showing exactly how their systems could be enhanced. The humans were teaching the Vorthak how to build better ships even as they stole the existing ones. Commander Yoon Daeho, whose suicidal attack had started the infiltration, now sat comfortably in the command center of a captured Vorthak cruiser. The alien crew was locked in their quarters, unharmed but helpless while human technicians explored their vessel. "Commander Lee," he reported, "we've gained access to their military databases. The Vorthak have detailed records of every species they've conquered, their tactics, their weaknesses, everything." "What do the records say about us?" Commander Lee asked. "That's the interesting part. They have almost no information about human military capabilities. They assumed we would fight like every other species they've faced. They never considered that we might fight like humans." The final humiliation came when the humans began demonstrating superior tactical knowledge. The captured Vorthak ships moved into formations that were more efficient than traditional Vorthak doctrine. They showed coordination and creativity that centuries of military perfection had never achieved. General Han Kyu-hyun watched the battle from Earth's command center. His tactical displays showed a Vorthak fleet that was no longer Vorthak. More than half their ships were under human control, and those ships were now protecting Earth instead of attacking it. "Signal the remaining Vorthak vessels," he ordered. "Offer them the same choice they gave us. Surrender and be treated well, or continue fighting and face destruction by their own ships." Warprime Zalveth faced the most impossible decision of his military career. His perfect fleet had been turned against him by an enemy that fought with methods no Vorthak had ever imagined. Half his ships were now more loyal to humans than to their original crews. The communication screen flickered, again showing Commander Lee Bora. "Warprime," she said softly. "You came here expecting to fight primitives with simple weapons. Instead, you found a species that turns every disadvantage into an advantage. We didn't need to match your strength. We just needed to be smarter than you expected." Zalveth looked around his bridge at crew members who could barely meet his eyes. For the first time in Vorthak history, their perfect military machine had been completely outmaneuvered. "What do you want?" he asked finally. "The same thing we've always wanted," Commander Lee replied. "To survive, to protect our world and our people. The question is whether you're smart enough to realize that fighting us further will only lead to more of your ships joining our fleet." As if to emphasize her point, another Vorthak cruiser went dark as human viruses took control of its systems. The ship's crew found themselves passengers aboard their own vessel as human technicians began upgrading their technology. Warprime Zalveth made the hardest decision of his life. For the first time in 983 conquests, he gave an order he had never needed to consider. "All ships," he transmitted to his remaining fleet, "stand down. Cease all hostile actions against the humans." The age of Vorthak perfection was over. General Han Kyu-hyun stood in the center of Earth's military command center, surrounded by screens showing the most complex operation in human history. Around him, hundreds of technicians worked at computer stations, each one controlling systems aboard captured Vorthak ships. The aliens had brought advanced technology to destroy Earth. Instead, they had delivered the greatest gift humanity had ever received. "Status report," General Han called out. Lieutenant Colonel Im So-young looked up from her electronic warfare station. "We now control 612 Vorthak vessels, sir. That's more than half their fleet. The remaining ships are maintaining defensive positions, but showing no hostile intent. And the crews? All alien personnel are secured in their quarters. No injuries on either side. They seem more confused than angry. General Han nodded with satisfaction. This was exactly what humanity did best. They turned every crisis into an opportunity, every enemy into a potential ally. The Vorthak had come to conquer Earth, but they were about to learn what it meant to be conquered by humans. On the bridge of his flagship, War Prime Zalveth stared at tactical displays that no longer made sense. His fleet existed only on paper. The ships were still there, still functional, but they no longer obeyed his commands. Worse, they were now superior to the vessels he still controlled. War Prime, his communications officer said quietly. We're receiving another transmission from the humans. The main screen showed Captain Ryu Jiwan again, but this time she was speaking from the bridge of a Vorthak heavy cruiser. Behind her, human technicians worked alongside Vorthak crew members, apparently in perfect cooperation. War Prime, Captain Ryu said. I want to show you something interesting. The screen split, showing technical specifications for Vorthak ship systems. On the left were the original designs. On the right were human modifications. Your engineers built incredible machines, Captain Ryu continued. But they were afraid to push the limits. Look at these engine specifications. You were using them at 60% capacity to ensure they never failed. We're running them at 95% with better performance and the same safety margins. Zalveth studied the data with growing amazement. The humans had improved Vorthak technology in ways his own scientists had never considered. They had found efficiencies and enhancements that centuries of Vorthak engineering had missed. How is this possible? He whispered. Because we think differently, Captain Ryu replied. Your people achieved perfection and stopped improving. We never achieved perfection, so we never stopped trying to get better. Dr. Kim Soo-yeon worked frantically in the engineering section of the captured Vorthak ship Thunder of Victory. Around him, human and Vorthak technicians studied alien technology together. The language barrier had been solved by translation computers, and the technical barrier was disappearing rapidly. Look at this, Dr. Kim called to his Vorthak counterpart, Engineer Prime Zalvek. Your antimatter containment system is incredibly sophisticated, but you're wasting 30% of the energy output through heat dispersion. Zalvek examined the human modifications with 6 eyes wide with surprise. These changes should not be possible. Our containment protocols have been unchanged for 2 centuries. That's the problem, Dr. Kim smiled. You stopped experimenting. We never stop experimenting. He showed Zalvek a series of modifications that increased energy efficiency while actually making the system safer. Your ancestors built these machines to be perfect. We're building them to be better than perfect. Similar scenes played out across the captured fleet. Human engineers worked with Vorthak crews to understand and improve every system. The aliens found themselves learning from the very species they had come to conquer. Captain Lee Hyun-woo, whose stealth ship had planted the first sensor package, now commanded a small task force of modified Vorthak vessels. His orders were simple. Demonstrate to the remaining enemy ships that resistance was pointless. All ships, assume formation Delta 7, he ordered. The captured Vorthak vessels moved with precision that surpassed anything in their original programming. They formed complex 3-dimensional patterns that showcased both their enhanced capabilities and perfect human coordination. War Prime Zalveth watched this display with growing despair. The formation his stolen ships were creating was more advanced than any tactical doctrine in Vorthak military history. The humans weren't just controlling his fleet. They were teaching it to be better than it had ever been under Vorthak command. War Prime, his tactical officer reported, the human-controlled ships are transmitting technical specifications to our remaining vessels. They're teaching us how to upgrade our own systems. Zalveth looked at the data streaming across his screens. The humans were freely sharing the improvements they had made to Vorthak technology. They weren't keeping their discoveries secret. They were giving them away. Why would they do this? Zalveth asked. His science officer studied the transmissions carefully. The technical data includes monitoring systems, Warprime. If we use these upgrades, the humans will be able to track our ships permanently. So they offer us better technology, but only if we accept their surveillance? It appears so, Warprime. Admiral Choi Wonho stood on the bridge of the Indomitable, watching as the last phase of Operation Deepwater began. Around Earth, the combined human and captured Vorthak fleet formed a defensive perimeter that no enemy could penetrate. But defense was not the goal. The goal was to change everything. "Admiral," reported Lieutenant Park Jinwoo, "we're receiving surrender requests from the remaining Vorthak ships. They want to negotiate." "Put Warprime Zalveth through," Admiral Choi ordered. The alien commander appeared on screen, but he looked different now. The arrogance was gone, replaced by something Admiral Choi recognized as respect. "Admiral Choi," Zalveth said formally, "I request terms for the surrender of my remaining forces. The terms are simple, Warprime. Your crews will be treated with honor and respect. Your ships will be returned to you, but with the modifications we have made. You will leave our system and return to your territory." Zalveth was quiet for a long moment. "And the monitoring systems?" Admiral Choi smiled. "Consider them a gift. Your empire has been stagnant for centuries, using the same technology, the same tactics, the same thinking. The monitoring systems will force you to keep improving, to keep adapting, to keep growing." "You're changing us," Zalveth said, and it wasn't a question. "We're offering you the choice to change yourselves. Your people came here believing that perfection was the end goal. We're showing you that perfection is just the beginning." President Kim Soo-jin addressed the world from the United Earth Assembly building. Behind her, displays showed the Vorthak fleet preparing to depart Earth's solar system. But these were not the same ships that had arrived days before. "Citizens of Earth," President Kim began, "today we achieved victory not through destruction but through transformation. The Vorthak Empire came here to conquer us. Instead, they have become the first species in galactic history to learn from humans rather than fear us." She gestured to the tactical displays. "Every ship in their fleet now carries human technology and human ideas. When they return to their territory, they will carry our innovations with them. The empire that has remained unchanged for centuries will now be forced to evolve." In the audience, Ambassador Kang Hyo listened with amazement. 3 days ago, he had watched the most powerful military force in the galaxy demand Earth's surrender. Now that same force was leaving with human gifts that would change their entire civilization. The Vorthak believed their perfect war record made them invincible. President Kim continued. "Today they learned that perfection is not a destination, it's a starting point, and sometimes the greatest victory is not defeating your enemy, but teaching them to become something better." As the last Vorthak ship prepared to leave Earth's solar system, Warprime Zalveth sent a final message to the human commanders. "Admiral Choi, Commander Lee, Captain Ryu." His voice carried a tone of respect that would have been impossible days before. "You have given us something more valuable than victory or defeat. You have given us the chance to grow again." The communication ended and the Vorthak fleet began its journey home. But they were no longer the same species that had arrived at Earth. They carried with them human technology, human ideas, and most importantly, human ways of thinking about problems. Dr. Song Mi-hee watched the alien ships disappear into hyperspace. "Do you think it will work?" she asked Commander Lee Bora. "It's already working," Commander Lee replied, pointing to her screens. "Look at the formation they're using for their departure. It's 15% more efficient than standard Vorthak. Travel doctrine. They're already thinking like humans." As Earth's sun set on the most important day in human history, the planet's defenders began planning for what came next. The galaxy now knew that humans were not to be underestimated. More importantly, they had proven that the greatest weapon was not destruction, but the power to inspire change in others. The age of human influence had begun. 3 months had passed since the Vorthak fleet departed Earth's solar system, but the consequences of their encounter with humanity were only beginning to unfold across the galaxy. In the Great Council chambers of the Galactic Federation, emergency Sessions had been called to discuss what everyone was calling the human question. Ambassador Park Na-young stood before the assembled representatives of 47 worlds, her hand steady as she held the datapad containing Earth's official statement. The chamber was unusually quiet. Every species present had received reports about humanity's impossible victory over the Vorthak Empire. Honored representatives, Ambassador Park began, Earth appreciates your concern about recent events in our solar system. We want to assure you that humanity has no aggressive intentions toward any member world of the Federation. A representative from the Kalari Republic, a species of tall, blue-skinned beings known for their diplomatic skills, stood to speak. Ambassador Park, our concern is not about human aggression. Our concern is about the precedent you have set. If the Vorthak can be defeated so completely, what does this mean for galactic stability? It means, Ambassador Park replied calmly, that no military force is truly invincible. It means that adaptation and creativity can overcome even the most advanced technology. Most importantly, it means that warfare itself may be evolving beyond simple contests of strength. Meanwhile, in the depths of Vorthak space, former War Prime Zalveth struggled with challenges no Vorthak commander had ever faced. He stood in the council chamber of the Vorthak homeworld, addressing the High Command about his defeat at Earth. The humans did not simply defeat us, Zalveth explained to his superiors. They changed us. Every ship that returned carries their technology, their ideas, their ways of thinking. We cannot simply ignore what happened. High Commander Korath, the supreme leader of Vorthak forces, studied the technical reports with growing confusion. These modifications to our ships are impressive, but they come with monitoring systems. The humans can track our every movement. Yes, High Commander, but the improvements to our capabilities are significant. Our ships are 30% more efficient, our weapons are more powerful, and our defenses are stronger. The question is whether we value our privacy more than our advancement. The Vorthak High Command faced a dilemma no military force had confronted in centuries. Accept human improvements and lose their independence, or reject them and fall behind technologically. On Earth, Dr. Song Mi-hee analyzed data streams from across the galaxy. The monitoring systems installed on Vorthak ships were providing incredible intelligence about the political and military situation in dozens of star systems. The effects are spreading faster than we predicted, she reported to Commander Lee Bora. The Vorthak Empire is fracturing. Some worlds want to adopt human modifications. Others are rejecting any change. There are reports of civil conflicts in at least 12 systems. Commander Lee studied the intelligence reports with mixed feelings. Humanity had wanted to defend Earth, not destabilize an entire galactic empire. But the changes were already in motion, and there was no way to stop them. What about other species, she asked. Are they showing interest in our technology? 17 different civilizations have sent diplomatic requests for technological exchange agreements. They want to understand how we defeated the Vorthak. Some are offering military alliances, others are requesting defensive pacts. The most surprising development came from an unexpected source. Ship Commander Velkoth, whose vessel had been the first to fall under human control, sent a private message to Earth's leadership. Humans of Earth, his transmission began. I am Velkoth of the Vorthak vessel Blade of Conquest. I write to inform you that your modifications to our ships have had unexpected consequences. My crew has begun questioning many aspects of traditional Vorthak doctrine. The message continued. For centuries we have followed orders without question, believing that our military perfection made questioning unnecessary. But your improvements to our technology required us to understand our own systems more deeply. This understanding has led to questions about other aspects of our society. Commander Lee shared Velkoth's message with Earth's leadership during their daily briefing. President Kim Soo-jin listened with fascination as the implications became clear. They're not just adopting our technology, President Kim observed. They're adopting our ways of thinking. The Vorthak military has been built on unquestioning obedience, but technical innovation requires curiosity and independent thought. General Han Kyu-hyun nodded in agreement. We may have accidentally started a revolution in Vorthak society. The question is whether this helps or hurts galactic stability. The answer came sooner than expected. Reports began arriving from across Vorthak territory describing unprecedented changes in their rigid military hierarchy. Junior officers were proposing tactical innovations. Engineering crews were suggesting modifications to standard procedures. Most shocking of all, some Vorthak were questioning whether their empire's expansion was necessary. Admiral Choi Won-ho reviewed these reports from his office in Seoul's military headquarters. The humans had achieved something no military force in galactic history had accomplished. They had defeated an enemy so completely that the enemy was voluntarily changing its entire way of life. Admiral, his aide, Lieutenant Seo Jae-hyun, entered with urgent news. We're receiving a priority transmission from the Galactic Federation. They're requesting an emergency meeting about Vorthak territorial disputes. The transmission explained the crisis. As Vorthak society began changing under human influence, different factions within their empire had developed conflicting views about their future. Some wanted to embrace human innovations completely. Others demanded a return to traditional ways. The result was internal conflict that threatened to tear apart the most stable military empire in the galaxy. Fleet Admiral Yang Jin-soo called an emergency meeting of Earth's senior military leadership. Representatives from every branch of service gathered in the secure conference room beneath Seoul's government center. The situation in Vorthak space is becoming critical, Admiral Yang began. Intelligence reports suggest that civil war is possible. If the Vorthak Empire fragments, it could create a power vacuum that destabilizes the entire galactic region. What are our options? Asked General Han. We could offer to mediate between the different Vorthak factions, suggested Admiral Choi. Our technology created this crisis. Perhaps our diplomacy can resolve it. Captain Ryu Ji-won, who had been studying Vorthak culture since the battle, raised a different concern. The real problem isn't political, it's philosophical. The Vorthak built their entire civilization around the concept of perfection through military conquest. We've shown them that perfection is an illusion. They're having an identity crisis that goes beyond politics. The discussion was interrupted by an urgent communication from Ambassador Park Na-young at the Galactic Federation. Her message was brief but alarming. Multiple species are requesting human military assistance. They want protection against potential Vorthak Civil War refugees, and they want access to the technology that defeated the Empire. Earth needs to make some decisions quickly. President Kim Soo-jin faced the most important decision in human history. Earth had defended itself successfully, but in doing so, it had become the center of galactic political upheaval. Every species wanted something from humanity, and their choices would shape the future of interstellar civilization. Schedule a full cabinet meeting, she ordered, and contact our best xenosociologists. We need to understand what we've started and how to guide it in a positive direction. Dr. Kim Soo-hyun, who had led the technical analysis of Vorthak systems, proposed a radical solution. Instead of trying to control the changes we've created, we should accelerate them. Offer our technological improvements to any species willing to accept monitoring systems. Create a galaxy-wide network of shared innovation. That would make Earth the center of galactic technology development, observed Commander Lee. Every advancement would flow through our systems. Exactly, Dr. Kim replied. But it would also create a community of species working together instead of conquering each other. The Vorthak model of military expansion would become obsolete. As Earth's leaders debated humanity's next steps, the effects of their victory continued spreading across the galaxy. The species that had achieved perfection through conquest was learning that true strength came from adaptation and growth. The age of static military empires was ending, and the age of collaborative technological advancement was beginning. But the transition would not be peaceful, and humanity would need to guide it carefully to avoid galactic chaos. The price of defeating perfection was the responsibility to help create something better in its place. 6 months after the Battle of Earth, the galaxy looked nothing like it had before humans entered the interstellar community. In the depths of Vorthak space, former War Prime Zalveth stood before a gathering that would have been impossible under the old empire. Vorthak officers from dozens of ships sat alongside human advisors, discussing tactical innovations that neither species could have developed alone. The third battle group has reported success with the new formation patterns, announced Ship Commander Velkoth. Fuel efficiency is up 40%, and response time to threats has improved dramatically. Salveth nodded approvingly. The changes in his people still amazed him. 6 months ago, junior officers never spoke in strategic meetings. Now they were proposing improvements to thousand-year-old military doctrines. What about resistance from traditionalist factions? Asked Dr. Kim Soo-hyun, the human technical advisor assigned to the Vorthak transition. Decreasing each week, Salveth replied. It's difficult to argue with results. The ships using human modifications are simply superior to those that don't. Even our most conservative commanders are beginning to accept change. But not all changes in Vorthak society were smooth. On the industrial world of Korath Prime, violent clashes had erupted between Vorthak, who embraced human innovations, and those who demanded a return to traditional ways. The empire that had been united for centuries was struggling to find a new identity. On Earth, Admiral Oh Hee-jin managed humanity's new role as galactic mediators from the recently established Department of Interstellar Relations. Her office in Geneva coordinated with 17 different species, all seeking human assistance with various conflicts and challenges. Status report, Admiral Oh called to her staff. The Kalari Republic is requesting assistance with their border dispute with the Zephyrian Collective, reported her aide, Commander Park Sang-yun. Both sides want human observers to ensure fair negotiations. The Arcturus Federation wants our help designing new defensive systems based on the technology we used against the Vorthak, and we have 3 more requests for technological exchange programs. Admiral O studied the list of requests with growing concern. Humanity was being pulled into conflicts across the galaxy, and they lacked the resources to help everyone. What about the Vorthak situation? Still unstable. Intelligence reports suggest the Empire may split into 3 separate factions within the next year. The Progressive Coalition wants full integration with human technology. The traditional hierarchy demands a return to old ways. The Moderate Assembly seeks a compromise between both approaches. In the Galactic Federation chambers, Ambassador Park Na-young addressed an emergency session called to discuss the spreading chaos in Vorthak territory. Representatives from dozens of worlds packed the Great Hall, their conversations creating a buzz of nervous energy. Fellow beings, Ambassador Park began, humanity accepts responsibility for the changes we have triggered in Vorthak society. We are prepared to assist in managing the transition to a more stable configuration. The representative from the Tau Ceti Alliance, a confederation of peaceful trading worlds, stood to speak. Ambassador Park, our concern is not just about Vorthak instability. Your victory has changed the balance of power across the entire galaxy. Other militaristic species are seeking to fill the power vacuum left by Vorthak fragmentation. We are aware of these developments, Ambassador Park replied. Earth proposes the creation of a new framework for interstellar relations, one based on technological cooperation rather than military domination. The proposal sent ripples of discussion through the chamber. Humanity was suggesting a fundamental change to how galactic civilization functioned. Meanwhile, former War Prime Zalveth received an unexpected visitor in his quarters aboard the modified cruiser New Conquest. Commander Lee Bora materialized on his communication screen calling from Earth. War Prime, she said, using his former title out of respect. I wanted to discuss a proposal from Earth's leadership. I am listening, Commander. We believe the fragmentation of your empire serves no one's interests. Earth is prepared to offer full technological partnership to all Vorthak factions, but only if they agree to reunification under a new governmental structure. Zalveth was quiet for a long moment. What kind of structure? Democratic representation with technological meritocracy. Leaders chosen for their ability to adapt and innovate, not their military rank. Decisions made through debate and consensus, not through hierarchical command. You're asking us to abandon everything that made us Vorthak. Commander Lee's expression softened. We're asking you to become better Vorthak. Your species' greatest strength was never your military perfection. It was your ability to work together toward common goals. We're offering you new goals worthy of that cooperation. The proposal was discussed throughout Vorthak space over the following weeks. Town hall meetings were held on worlds that had never known democratic processes. Former military commanders debated policy with civilian leaders, who had been ignored for centuries. Dr. Lee Jae-hyun monitored these developments from Earth's Xenosociology Research Center. His analysis of Vorthak society showed patterns that gave him hope for the future. The transition is proceeding faster than our models predicted, he reported to President Kim Soo-jin during their weekly briefing. Vorthak psychology is naturally cooperative. Their military hierarchy was actually suppressing their most productive social instincts. What about the other species? Are they adapting well to the new galactic situation? Mixed results. The peaceful trading civilizations love the new emphasis on cooperation. The militaristic species are struggling to adapt. Some are requesting human assistance with their own societal transitions. President Kim reviewed reports from across human space. Earth's colonies were thriving under the new galactic order, but the homeworld was struggling with its new responsibilities. Humanity had become the galaxy's problem solvers and everyone wanted their help. We need to be careful, she warned her advisors. We defeated the Vorthak by being clever and unpredictable. If we become the new galactic hegemon, we risk becoming as rigid as they were. The solution came from an unexpected source. Fleet Admiral Yang Jin-soo proposed creating a distributed network of innovation centers throughout the galaxy, each one jointly operated by multiple species including humans. Instead of centralizing everything on Earth, he explained, we spread human methods and knowledge throughout the galaxy. Every species contributes their unique strengths, and everyone benefits from shared innovations. The proposal was tested first in former Vorthak space. On the world of New Korath, representatives from 12 different species worked together in a research facility that combined Vorthak engineering, human creativity, Kalari diplomacy, and innovations from 9 other civilizations. Commander Yoon Daeho, now serving as Earth's liaison to the facility, marveled at the results. We're developing technologies that no single species could have created alone. The Vorthak provide precision engineering, humans provide adaptive thinking, the Kalari contribute social organization, and everyone learns from everyone else, the Meyer. Success of the new Korath facility led to similar installations throughout the galaxy. Within a year, the old model of isolated civilizations competing for resources was being replaced by a network of cooperative research and development. But the most significant change occurred in humanity itself. Captain Ryu Ji-won, now promoted to admiral, addressed the United Nations in New York about Earth's evolving role in galactic affairs. When the Vorthak first arrived, she began, we were a small world fighting for survival. Today, we are part of a galactic community that values innovation over conquest, cooperation over domination. She gestured to displays showing the network of research facilities now operating across dozens of star systems. But we must remember the lesson we taught the Vorthak. Perfection is the enemy of progress. The moment we believe we have found the perfect system, we stop improving, we stop adapting, we stop being human. The audience listened intently as Admiral Ryu outlined humanity's vision for the future. We will continue to share our knowledge, our methods, our ways of thinking. But we will also continue to learn from every species we encounter. The galaxy is vast, and there are always new challenges that require new solutions. In the depths of space, former War Prime Zalveth piloted his ship toward a meeting that would have been impossible under the old Vorthak Empire. Representatives from the 3 major Vorthak factions had agreed to gather at a neutral station to discuss reunification under the principles Earth had suggested. Ship Commander Velkoth, Zalveth called to his second-in-command. What is your assessment of the reunification proposal? Velkoth consulted his datapad, which now contained information shared freely between Vorthak and human networks. The technical advantages of cooperation are undeniable, War Prime. Ships operating under unified human Vorthak protocols show superior performance to those using traditional methods. The political advantages are also significant. Explain. Democratic representation will give voice to our engineering specialists and scientific personnel. For centuries, we limited leadership to military commanders. But our encounter with humans proved that technical innovation is as important as tactical skill. The reunification talks took place over several weeks.